Okay, let's get into this one right here. You're not seeing things. What's on your screen is some of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest back-to-back eras of all times. And I can tell you this, I couldn't even imagine them having social media back in the 80's and the 90's. That would destroy the entire NBA. It really would. And what about debate groups? If they had debate groups or debate shows in the 80's or 90's, it would literally destroy the NBA. And that's what happened in the late 2000s until now. They put on these debate shows to what? To basically save a dying product called the NBA. And we know what's keeping the NBA afloat today. A soap opera, drama, lies, narratives. So YouTubers can have channels. Debate shows can have jobs. And the NBA can somehow stay alive based on that because it can't do what the 80's and 90's could do. Be at the top of its game in ratings based on the on-court play. Only time they talked about Michael Jordan or you really heard about him was on commercials, maybe sports centers, when it was a game on, something like that. It wasn't 24-hour Michael Jordan like it's 24-hour LeBron James. They didn't scrutinize every Michael Jordan game. Could you imagine they had a debate show of every Michael Jordan game? Remember, every time we watched Undisputed, Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless was talking about LeBron's every single damn game. That's ridiculous. Every game, like it was a NFL football Sunday game. Like it was that big. Like he only had 16, 17 games in the season. But in fact, what's it, 82 games in the season? He talking about his game every damn day. That's pretty sad. And that's probably why that show probably tanked. Because nobody wanted to hear about a 4-6 loser that much. So let's look at this. And we got the Nick Wrights and we got the Gilbert Arenases and the JJ Reddicks and all these type of guys that said Jordan played against no competition in the 80's and 90's, which is funny to me. So why wasn't he winning championships in the 80's if these guys were trash? They were plumbers. They weren't skilled. I just don't understand that. So in the 80's, you see people like Kareem, Bird, Charles Barkley, John Stockton, Clyde Drexler, Patrick Ewing, Karl Malone, Elijah One, Dominique Wilkins, Mitch Richmond. I think Tim Hardaway came in. What came in like 88? Moses Malone, Scottie Pippen, Bill Walton, Dennis Rodman, Iceman, Isaiah Thomas. Oh man, Bernard King played for a hot minute. Julius Erving, Alex English. Oh, I forget this guy's name. Is that Walter Davis? I think it is. Kevin McHale. I think this is Worthy. Yeah, Worthy's on there. Some notable names. McAdoo, Jamal Wilkes. That's not on here. Who else? Joe Dumars, Reggie Miller, Dennis Scott. Oh man, I forget this guy's name. Oh God, the guy that played for the Bucks, the great defensive player. Cindy Moncrief. That's who it is. David Robinson. Chris Mullin. Wow. Oh boy. And a lot of these guys are like top 5 of all time at their position, either offensively or defensively. If not, top 10. Top 10. I would say either offensively or defensively or just period. These 80 players I just named, top 5 to top 10 all time at their position. Most of them. I wouldn't say Chris Mullin or Mitch Richmond or Tim Hardaway. Moses Malone. I don't know about that. But still great players. Hall of Fame. Most of them are Hall of Fame players. So let's go to the 90's. You got Anthony Hardaway, Kobe Bryant, Bird played for a second, Clyde Drexler, Mitch Richmond, Ewing, Reggie Miller, John Stockton, Shaq, Magic. Whoa, hold on, wait. Magic wasn't in the 80's, was he? I forgot to put him in there. So yeah, Magic played for a minute in the 90's. Moses Malone, Allen Iverson, Alex English. Is that Bernard King? Did he play in the 90's? Huh. Chris Webber, Sean Kemp. Who else? Isaiah Thomas, Jason Kidd. Who else? Jason Kidd, Sean Payton. Not Sean Payton. Gary Payton, Karl Malone, Elijah One, Horace Pippen. Hey, you can put Chauncey Billups in here. Matter of fact, because he made the Hall of Fame. He played in the 90's. Joe Dumars, Charles Barkley, Dennis Rodman. You got Chris Mullin, Larry Johnson, David Robinson, Dominique Wilkins, Reggie Miller, Mutombo, Kevin Garnett, Ray Allen. You got Tim Hardaway. Who else? Oh, Michael Cooper. Yes, you can put him in the 80's too. The guy just made the Hall of Fame not too long ago. I say Tim Duncan's right there. I say Jason Kidd, Steve Nash. I don't know if I said these guys. Ray Allen. Somebody else just made the Hall of Fame. Who was that? I said Chauncey Billups, right? He played in the late 90's. Some notable names: Glenn Rice, Grant Hill. I would say Steve Smith. We can throw in Tony Kukoc, since you guys think he's a he's American Hall of Famer. I mean, get out of here. So, I mean, we could throw in notable names all day. You know, like your Rasheed Wallace's, your Kevin Johnsons. Who else? Dan Marley. But what you see on your screen right here, and a lot of these guys in the 90's, especially in the 80's too, but had these commercials, these badass commercials. You just don't have that today. All these 90's guys, they had personalities. It went with the 90's, and that was just it, man. And we thought it was going to move on to the 2000s, and it kind of did. It wasn't that bad in the 2000s, but when I dropped this video the other day, and we was talking about Michael Jordan's East competition versus LeBron's East competition and all the final runs. Well, one of his fans came on there. He said, "Man, you need to get your history right and start running your mouth." I think he said Tatum and Jaylen Brown didn't come into the league until like 16 or 17, because I put on 2015 they was LeBron's competition in the East. So when I saw Boston on there, I should have clicked and seen the roster. I usually do that. I don't know how I messed that up. But he was right. Tatum and Jaylen Brown was not on that roster. And it just makes it even worse, because that year he played no Hall of Fame competition. No Hall of Fame competition. Don't tell me about Chicago, because Jalen Rose is not a Hall of Famer. I think he made the All-Star team like one time or something like that. 1, 2 times. He's not a Hall of Famer. He's not going to be. They're going to have to be letting a whole bunch of other people be Hall of Famers then. But he got hurt. If we're going to talk about he should be, he could have been, well, what about Hardaway? Well, what about Larry Johnson? That's just how it is. Oh, man, he won an MVP. Well, if he would have won a championship, I could understand. And that's why they put Bill Walton in there. Because at least he won a championship by himself before he got hurt. But nevertheless, in that whole 2015 run, LeBron James and his super team played no Hall of Famers. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. Didn't play one Hall of Famer. You got to at least play one. And that's what we talk about. In the next year, he played one who was DeMar DeFrozen. I mean, this guy goes so far under the radar. Nobody, you wouldn't even know he was in the NBA unless anybody even said anything. That's how much they talk about this guy. Now, I'm not trying to say he's trash. He's not a good player, but I don't know. Maybe he should have got on a good team by now. All these other dudes is out here super teaming it up. Let's look at this guy's resume real quick. I don't care, man. If I'm trying to get my career up, if I see everybody else doing super teams like that, I'm gonna be doing that. I'm talking about by now. So let's see where he's at. Oh, dude, age 35? I didn't even know that. Wow. Didn't even know that. So he could be low managing, probably. 6-time All-Star. When did he come into the league? In 2009. So he played with Chicago almost 10 years. I mean, the Raptors. 6-time All-Star. That's the same as Sean Kemp. Sean Kemp was 6-time All-Star. He was All-Star in 23. Let me see. He won the All-Star last year. 2-time All-NBA. Second team. And 1-time third team. So if this guy is going to get in the Hall of Fame, they better be letting Sean Kemp in. Because Sean Kemp has 6-time All-Star. And I think he's got 3-time All-NBA. Just like the Frozen. He won 2 gold medals at the World Cup in the 2016 Olympics. So if DeMar DeFrozen, if he's going to be a Hall of Famer, let me see Paul George. Let me see what he's got on his resume. Yeah, he probably going to be a Hall of Famer. 9-time All-Star. Oh, definitely. 1-time first team All-NBA. That's surprising to me. But he's got 5 third teams. And what's he got? 2 defensive first teams. And he's got steals leader. Second team All-NBA defensive 2 times. So when you look at these guys on the screen, these are the guys who laid the foundation for the NBA to keep going. Now, I'm not trying to say they laid the foundation for the NBA. I'm saying to keep it going. You know, I was watching that game. What was it? 1970 NBA Finals, Game 7. Lakers versus, who is this? The Knicks. And that was a hell of a game. And I'm not talking about what happened. I'm talking about the defensive effort. And we was used to seeing this in the 90's, but man, I'm talking about these dudes, every time the ball was brought up, trap press. I'm talking about the dude was riding you the whole damn time when you was coming up the court. You just don't see that today. But how would these, and the game was going so fast. I think they had like, what was it, like, seemed like it was like 60 points in the first half. Like, it was nuts. And you talking about even the white players, Jerry West and all the other white players, y'all talk about these guys ain't athletic and they're plumbers? Look, I don't think this NBA, this era, can play that type of pace as far as playing defense and up and down the court. There's no way. These guys got to stand around a 3-point line today and just sit there and wait for the ball to come. Oh my God. I want you to go back and watch that game. It's on YouTube. And I'm talking about every time Jerry West brought up the ball, or who was it, Earl the Pro Monroe. I'm talking about you getting pressed with a damn hand check on your hip the whole damn time. And the dude's moving his feet, both of them moving their feet until they get to the end of the court. I'm talking about moving his feet while the guy backing him down, the defender. I don't know, man. I think these guys back then were more athletic. They just were. You're sitting there getting hand checked the whole damn time. Now, they were calling fouls. They were calling travel, carrying, illegal screens, all this stuff. If you did it, everything was just more clean back then. If you got called for a foul, wasn't nobody complaining. No, that's it. You're gonna get teed up. Um, it I don't know where the disrespect for the refs came from, but I'm pretty sure it came in the LeBron era, because when I used to watch basketball, even in the 90's, I would say about 99% of the time, whatever they called, you just be like, oh man, that's crazy. You didn't like it? Oh man, that's crazy. And 99% of the time, you just walk back down the court. Now, it was at 1% where you would get mad and run up to the ref and be like, man, this is crazy. What was you didn't see this? That's how you would act. But that's like 1% of the time. The past, what, 15, 20 years, all these guys do is cry. I mean, you can track that back to Rasheed Wallace. I mean, this dude was the biggest crybaby of all time. The biggest crybaby. And I think this guy could have been a Hall of Famer. If you watch most of these early playoff games, especially that year when they was playing the Lakers and they had a chance to beat the Lakers, what was that, 2000? Man, Rasheed was busting their ass all game in that game 7. I don't know how they lost that game 7, but they was destroying Shaq in that game 7, Portland all game until that fourth quarter. But Rasheed was that type of guy. He could have been a top 75 player. No doubt about it. If he didn't cry so much. He let his emotions get in the way of playing actual basketball. So he had that turnaround jumper. He could shoot the three. He could shoot the mid-range. He could rebound real good. He could block the ball. I just never seen a dude that let his emotions get in the way of him being an all-time great. And he's an all-time great basketball player, but he basically destroyed his career being a crybaby. Yeah, that Portland team was stacked. You go back and look at that Portland team. Some of those guys, I think Jermaine O'Neal was on that team. A lot of those guys just branched off and went to other teams. That's how loaded. And were like star players. Jermaine O'Neal, did he get hurt at the end of his career? I don't know what happened, but that guy should have been a Hall of Famer. He was really good at the beginning of his career. He just kind of like fell off. But this is the 80's and 90's. Nobody is going to take the 2000s and the 2010s over the 80's and 90's. Or would you take the 210s? That's LeBron's prime right there. You're going to take the 210s in the 2020s over the 80's and 90's? And we told you this before. The ratings tell the story. If nobody is watching this trash, guess what? It's not a good product. Nobody's not interested. So we've been talking about this. This is the only way they can keep this league alive. It's saying a whole bunch of stupid stuff. You heard Robert Parrish just say something stupid. I mean, how much money are they giving him to say something? I mean, this guy's like 80 years old. They didn't have to say nothing stupid in the 80's and 90's to keep the league alive. They didn't need to say nothing stupid. Today, Anthony Edwards said something stupid the other day. This is, well, you don't even have Americans as your top 5 players. It don't have to be all Americans, but there's no Americans as your top 5 players, and you got 2 slow-footed plumbers who are 1 and 2 the best in your league. Somebody explain that. And I'm talking about, I don't know if SGA is going to be able to get him a MVP. I just don't know. Maybe he can still win within the next 5 years. But to me, it's going to be Luka and it's going to be Joker. This is the league they want. Stat padding. Remember, LeBron made this league. So what they're doing now, your Jokers, your Lukas, they're just stat padding. Give me the ball and I'm a stat pad. That's it. And you can't do nothing about it because it's Luka's team and it's Joker's team. They're going to stat pad to get these awards because this is the league that LeBron made. So we're going to see if they care about winning more or stat padding. Because LeBron, he basically can't win too much with all that stat padding. Remember, 27, 7, and 7. Now, 27 points only got him one scoring title. 7 assists did get you one assist title in the Disney bubble year. But 7 assists is good, but it's not great or upper echelon. We're not talking about good until we get to about 9 assists, and 10 plus is upper echelon. 7 rebounds depends on your position. If you're a guard, that's great. If you're a power forward, which LeBron really is, 6'9", 250, 270, 7 boards is lousy. It's weak. It's embarrassing. It's it would get you off the floor in the 90s. They would basically take you off the floor. So it looks like Luka, the plumber, is going to average more rebounds than LeBron. And Luka's, what is he, 6'5"? I want to see Luka. Let me see what's going on here. We look up Luka real quick. Look up Luka. Don't need that. Luka, how tall are you? 6'7", but still he's not 6'9". And he's gonna average. Let me see what his career average is. Luka. Stats. They got his career. He's at 8.7 rebounds and 8.3 assists. And yeah. Last year he averaged 33, 9, 9, and 9. Yeah. He's at 28 points, 8.7 rebounds, 8.3 assists. And we already know what Joker's doing. Let me see what he's got for his career. I mean, these dudes just stat padding away. Goodness. What is this? I want to see his career stats. This can't be it, right? Wow, I thought it was more than this. 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 6.9 assists for Joker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he was playing 9 seasons, but he started out real slow. First season, 9 points per game. Next season, 16. Next season, 18. Next season, 20. Next season, he went down to 19. So, his numbers really ain't that. His career numbers aren't really that impressive. Last year he had 26, 12, and 9. So we'll see how many years he plays. He's gonna have to keep his numbers up at, what he did last year, 25 or 26 points per game, double-digit rebounds, and almost 10 assists, 9 assists, just to say, oh man, I won all these MVPs. Because if he stays at this career, 28 points per game, 20.9 points per game, 10.7 rebounds, and 6.9 assists. if he stays basically right there for his career, I don't see how he can justify all those MVPs. I know he did it like in different years, the past what 4 years, but come on now. Like I said, this dude just came out of nowhere because when he came into the league 15-16, he averaged 9 points. Second season, 16 points. Third season, 18. And then he finally got to 20 and 19. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. The guy got stronger as the league got weaker. So he came in 2015 when Curry won his first chance. He got stronger as the league got weaker going into the 2020s. Because, yeah, going into the 2020s. Got weaker, he got stronger. So you can have all these skills, supposedly, because the floor is spread out. So you can just dribble, 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 dribble. You go back and watch some of these 70's games. You ain't fixing to do all that dribbling. They about to rip your damn pocket. I'm talking about these dudes was, the way they were dribbling was so tight, so tight, so tight, and sometimes they were still getting ripped. These guys could steal the ball so good, it was ridiculous. So it ain't no way you're going to be sitting out there dribbling like that. And all your passes better be crisp and tight. Because I was watching that game, and they was making tight passes, and they was still stealing the damn ball. So you guys tell me what you think. You really going to take... Would you take the 2000s and the 210s over the 80's and 90's? Or would you take the 210s in the 2020s over the 80's and 90's? Or what era would you take over the 80's and 90's? Would you take the 60's and the 70's? You got to make up your mind. And when I say that, you're talking about these dudes right here. I know some of them wasn't in their prime or whatever like that. And, we could even say the same for, some of these guys that came in the 80's. All these guys weren't in their prime. But that's just the way it is, man. Their game still evolved out of the 80's, right? The guys that played in the late 80's and played in the 90's, their games evolved out of the 80's. Just like, when you look at Steve Nash, when you look at Tim Duncan and Kobe Bryant, Allen Iverson, their games evolved out of the 90's. It wasn't no 2000s. The Ben Wallaces, their games evolved out of the 90's. The Steve Nash, the Jason Kidds evolved out of the 90's. Shaq's came out of the 90's. The Kevin Garnett, it came out of the 90's. Even though some of these guys played in the 2000s, it came out of the 90's. These guys that you were looking at in the 210s had their own total different style of play. That's when everything started to go whoop downhill. And to me, we talked about this before. This is when the NBA became a production. It no longer became a league. You had what? Debate shows that started pushing the NBA instead of its on-court play. They could just tell you, like today, what you see on the court every day when you watch these games. You can be like, well, this is what I see. But when you listen to the debate groups, they'll tell you, no, this is what's going on. This is what you really see because we're on TV. So you got to listen to us. We're supposed to be the analysts. We get paid the big money. I don't believe none of these guys get paid none of this big money. On TV? I don't believe it. You believe it? I don't believe it. Why would it be any of our business how much they make on TV? The Stephen A. Smiths, the Shannon Sharp, any of these guys. And Skip supposedly made all this money on that show, Undisputed. And he's still out here working like a dog? Huh? He still got his own podcast? Or his own show on YouTube TV, YouTube, whatever it's called. This man exhausts himself to the limits, and he's supposed to be making all this money every year. For all those years he was on TV, he made all this millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars. Yeah. Believe it if you want. Like I said, why would they actually have to tell us? What would be the purpose? So again, you let me know, what two eras are you gonna pick over the 80s and 90s? Look, guys, I'm gonna be honest. I grew up in a different time. I was alive and got to see these people, from your Michael Jordans to your Bo Jacksons, and not only seen them, heard them at that time. I was in this moment. Your Bo Jacksons, your Deion Sanders, your Joe Montanas, your Madonnas, your Michael Jacksons, your Prince, your Guns N' Roses, your Metallicas, everything that was in the 80s and 90s, I was there. Got to see it, got to hear it, and was in the moment. All that pop culture, whether it was music, movies, sports, fashion, everything. If you was around at that time, you was blessed. And you got to see it, because none of that stuff exists anymore. It's over. And I always tell people, when we see a lot of these stars and they're passing away already, or they already passed away, they're not replacing them. When I was coming up, they always replaced them, right? It was always the next this, the next that, the next, they stopped replacing these stars, whether it was in movies, Hollywood, sports. I'm talking about, it was always something better coming up, whether it was in rock music. It was a different band coming out that was equally good or better. A sports player, a movie star, this type of stuff. And that stopped in the 2000s. It just totally stopped. To me, I think everything that was great. And what's a coincidence? LeBron coincides with all this stuff. I think all this stopped in about 2012. From 2012 on, there hasn't been any greatness that can top that prior period from 2012 back. And I don't care if it's the damn 50s or the 60s or the 70s, it still had greatness. Greatness kept coming. So when greatness started in the 40s, boom, here come the 50s with more greatness. Here come the 60s, it got better. Here comes the 70s, it got better. Here comes the 90s. And we come into the 2000s, it was still greatness. And then about 2012, all that stopped. The music started being lame. The movies started being lame. The sitcoms started being lame. The sports started to be lame. The culture is lame. And it had nothing to do with being old or getting old, because every generation took a responsibility to carry on the greatness of other eras. As soon as we got into 210s, it just took a crap. So I would like to do a video on that one day. But when we talk about the 80s and 90s, we're talking about a culture that just exploded and took off and was so unique, especially the 80s. The 80s was that unique expression culture that just came from everywhere, especially music. It was all over the place. And you just never get that back. This is all you got now is social media. The arts is gone. The creativity is gone. The real self-expression is gone. The uniqueness is gone. All that is gone. It don't exist no more. And if you think because you got technology, this is your technology, you better go back and watch some of the old movies in the 80s and 90s, and they were telling us we were really going to live futuristic. This is not futuristic. None of this stuff that they were saying how we were going to live in the future, especially by the time we got to 2000. They said we were going to be living all futuristic. If you look at Back to the Future, Demolition Man, a lot of these movies, we're not living nothing like it. Nothing. All you got is a touchscreen, phone, radio in your car. You don't really have nothing futuristic. What they were talking about in the movies, nothing. So if you think this era is so much better, you have nothing to stand on. Tell me what you think.